Welcome back, beautiful people. I'm your girl Tammy, and we are now back on The Shy. We are on season 6, episode 2. So we are still fresh in the beginning of the season. If you're new to this channel, you know that I don't do the traditional recap. We catch up with our characters. We're not going step by step. It's important, I think, that we watch the episode and we support these shows that we say we want to see on TV. But let's catch up with everybody so you know what's going on in episode 2. So as I stated earlier, we're refocusing back on the characters. I feel like this has been the focus of The Shy this season in general. Like they've really been honing in on us getting like a little bit deeper into each character's life. Especially from episode 1 till now. That's a bit different than some, shows. Usually they'll do like a particular thing that happens or an event that happens that's focused around everyone how they sort of respond to that event. I feel like The Shy is very character driven, which I really, really love. Anyway, Chicago's very own Vic Mensa has been introduced back to us this season. He was in The Shy, I think 2 seasons ago. He is Lene's brother, Jamal, and he is recently out of jail. He is born again, and he found God in jail. And basically, he's comes to Victor, aka Trig, because he wants to get reacquainted. So if you remember, he went to jail. And he came back out, and he's trying to basically reconnect with his sister. We know Lene is recently adopted by Kevin and Keisha's mothers. And so she's currently living with them, and he doesn't have, access to her as her sibling, but he was taking care of her beforehand in that chaotic life in that chaotic house. And that chaotic house prior to his incarceration. So he's basically coming to Victor because he's asking him to connect him back with Lene and to help him sort of right some of his wrongs within the community. Victor is trying to figure out what he wants to do as far as his platform, and he really does want to help him. When Jamal went to jail, Trig was really responsible for getting her services, getting her connected with people that eventually got her living with Kevin and them, and then eventually got her adopted. So this is Jamal's first stop in trying to figure out what he wants to do. So in keeping with Jamal's story, y'all, I think it's important to understand that, part of what Victor is doing, and as a newly elected city council member, he connects with all the organizations. And we know when he was first starting out with volunteering and campaigning and wanting to change his life over from the drug game, he started working with Tracy at Rock. And so Jamal and him stopped by Rock, and basically Victor is asking Tracy, does she mind if she kind of helps Jamal get reacclimated back to society? Because as I said, he's born again now, so he really wants to do things in the community to right his wrongs and to change his trajectory and change his story. And so Victor asked Tracy, does she mind if he volunteers at Rock? And let me tell you, Jamal, being a cutie, seeing Tracy looking fine, he starts complimenting her on the work she's doing with Rock. He starts saying all this stuff, and Tracy is smiling ear to ear. You can already tell they are setting us up for like a romantic situation going on, and that she is feeling him a little bit. She's kind of like, blushing and like a little smiling as he's giving her compliments about the work that she's done in the community and different things like that. But you can definitely tell Tracy is smitten, and she's trying to get away from Douda's craziness. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to try to connect them together, because I think they're going to try to make something happen. But I'm also interested to see if Jamal's really changed. We know that part of what Victor is going to be doing, and Victor does in this episode, is reconnect him with Lene. But has he really changed his behavior? Because he's starting to get intertwined with all these people that really want to do good in the community. So we know that we have to pay attention and see what's going to happen there. I definitely know that they set up a storyline for him and Tracy to be messing around, and who or what is going to happen when Douda finds out. That's going to be a whole mess. On Victor's side of things, we're still kind of following him. He's newly elected to office. We're realizing that he's trying to find a platform. So, he, in the very first episode, is still struggling to get elected. He gets elected. He goes viral for having his shirt off and us seeing that chest and all those muscles. And so now it's an issue of, okay, I'm in office, I got elected. Where do I stand on the issues? And what issue do I stand on the most? Most newly elected officials and mayors, they have like plans already laid out for what they want to do for the city. If you're a city council person, what do you want to focus on? Victor does have this conversation with Fatima later on at dinner when they're just like, spending couples time together. And she suggests to him to think about mental health and how it really is affected, and how many Black people in general and how many Black men are their mental health is affected, and we don't talk about it in our community enough. So he starts to think about that. He even thinks about the things that Jamal is going through right now and what he went through after his incarceration and what Shad is going through. And he decides that he thinks he wants mental health to be his platform. So next we kind of tap into Keisha and Emmett. And we started off the first episode of the season kind of focused on their relationship. And they were kind of going through a little bit of something very early on in the episode. Keisha's very mad with him and they're having this like not great, satisfying bed situation. So they're still a little bit in mad mode because we remember at the end of the last episode, Emmett walked out on an argument they were having about him buying a car for Tiff. So we're kind of coming into them in this episode, still focused on that same argument and being upset. And Keisha basically just says, like, hey, if you do that again, we're through. Like, I'm not dealing with somebody walking out on me in the middle of an argument. That's not how adults argue or disagree with things. We got to learn how to work things out. And we have to remember, y'all, this is Keisha and Emmett's second time together because they dated way back when they were in high school and they were younger. But Keisha and Emmett have been friends since they dated in high school. And she's seen the ups and downs of him in relationships and not really knowing how to have a real relationship and have a real commitment. Tiff was really his first thing outside of when he stopped cheating on her multiple times to really get into a serious situation. And then him and Tiff getting married was really one of the first times he was having an adult exchange. He's having an even more mature relationship with Keisha, and that is very new for him. And it's very new for Keisha to have somebody consistent to count on because she's also gone through it. We know that she had the SA situation happen when she got kidnapped. As a result, she had this baby. And her formulation and her connection back to real relationship came with the last guy she dated, who was real cool, but just not her person. And so her and Emmett being in this relationship together, this is really them having some maturity for the first time, them having some real conversations around how you resolve things as a couple, how you work through issues. And so they're really teaching each other and they're also learning from each other. And Keisha is letting Emmett know it takes work. And so Emmett, apologizes for walking out on her, but he does say that he's disappointed with the fact that they are arguing more than they're having fun and he misses them having fun. And Keisha reminds him, like, I'm not an amusement park. I know that you want it to be all fun and games all the time, but we got kids, we got bills, we got life. It can't be fun and games all the time. I'm a complex individual, so are you. And we got to, figure it out together, but we got to be committed to the together part. And I really, really appreciated that maturity from this conversation with them, especially being very young people. I think people always assume if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you're not going to have that mature relationship. And this is when you start having all those growing pains. So I'm glad that they're really showcasing the reality of what it's like to be in an adult relationship. So Keisha does mention that, they should be looking for a new place to live. As a result, Emmett connects again with Douda, Lord. And Douda recommends another person to him. We know in the very first episode, Douda recommended a car person to Emmett. And as a result, he bought himself like a Mercedes. And then he went and bought Tiff a car, which, spawned the fight. So now Keisha's letting him know, look, we have all these kids. And, even when your kids are not here, you have one son, but you have other children and they're not here all the time. But when they're all here, it's a lot. We in this tiny space. So she says, look, we need to find a new place. Emmett talks to Douda. Douda connects him with the house person. Now, why every time Emmett going to do this stuff, Douda got to go with him? I don't know. But one of the things that we are noticing in this episode is Douda has a real influence on Emmett in his thought process. And some of it is grown, but a lot of it is off track to negativity. He is constantly trying to influence his life and incorporate himself into their life. And so when he connects him with his house guy, they're with the realtor. He's walking around with them in this house. Emmett really likes it, but he's saying he's got to connect with Keisha so they can really determine if they're going to live there. And Douda is telling him, like, you don't need to go to your woman. This is how you buy a house for a woman. You don't need to have her. You don't need to have permission from her. You don't need to talk with her. And he's like, I don't think that that's right because, they just talked about communication. And he's like, well, if you present a woman with a house, she's supposed to just accept it. No, she is not. And that's a ridiculous way of thinking when you're talking about going into a home with someone that you're going to plan on sharing. And so the realtor luckily jumps in and says, "Hey, I've dealt with plenty of couples. Don't talk to your woman first before buying this house. I can wait." Douda does not seem happy with that. Emmett also wants to talk to Keisha because it's a large purchase and they'll have to put down a down payment. And Douda says, "Hey, if you don't have all the money, no worries. I'll help you with the down payment." And Emmett's like, "I don't know if I want to do that." And Douda's like, "Hey, when someone chooses to help you, you take the help." We know that he don't need that kind of help from Douda. It just feels like we're definitely getting to a place where we're finding Emmett getting deeper and deeper in with Douda and things that he shouldn't be. And we know that none of this stuff comes for free. That there's going to be a point where Douda asks you to do something that you do not want to do, or gets Emmett and corrupts him into something that he's never been a part of before. So it's really interesting how they're driving this storyline with Douda's influence and with Emmett's kind of not knowing how to navigate dealing with him, and there being a genuine fear of dealing with him. And speaking of that genuine fear, I think it's showing up not just in Emmett, but we also see that it's showing up within Darnell, Emmett's actual father. So Darnell is trying to connect with Emmett. He stops at Smokey's to go speak to him and say hi. He is feeling like him and Emmett have grown apart a little bit, and they really to rekindle their relationship not that long ago. When we first started watching The Shy from the beginning, Emmett's always been closer to his mother than his father. His father had a very similar situation. Darnell has multiple baby mamas. He's been married multiple times. So Emmett didn't have a role model for a father. And so Darnell coming now full circle into his full adultness, actually marrying Emmett's mom after, years of them being estranged and not together, and becoming a more mature person. He has tried to be a role model for Emmett in some capacities, but their relationship really got built over the last 2 or 3 years when, as Darnell got his life together, he was encouraging Emmett to do the same and get more mature with things and work out things and learn how to discuss things as an adult in a relationship with a woman. And so, but recently, since Emmett's connected with Douda, that influence and that connection has been, further apart. And that's one of the things that Darnell is concerned about. So he goes to visit him, but they have some talks, and Emmett starts to bring up some things about Darnell, that although he loves and appreciates his dad and appreciates their relationship, Darnell also never taught him some things about life that he is learning from Douda. And that definitely sticks Darnell in the side a little bit, because he realizes how he's failed his son in some ways. And he's still trying to make sure he holds on and connects with him, because he doesn't want to lose what they've built. So you guys, Tiff is, again, making her little travels all over the city. Now we know Tiff started out, selling weed separate from Rob. And even when she was with Emmett, she was kind of doing that as like her occupation. And she always had a few people that were suppliers that she linked up with. One of them was Dante. We all remember Dante. Dante is actually played by Corey Haddock, who was formerly married to Tia Mowry, and they just recently got divorced. And so he plays the character of Dante on the show. And him and Tiff actually had a thing going for a while because she was single. When she wasn't single and Emmett and her were struggling and going through things, Emmett basically cheated on her. She went back and started sleeping with Dante. And then they agreed to have an open relationship, and Dante was her slide. So that is no longer the situation. Dante does respect the boundaries of her being with Rob, and she's no longer obviously married to Emmett anyway. And, he understands that, but he's like, "Hey, if you ever want to come back, it's always good over here." I like Dante's character. I feel like he's really laid back and cool. He only engages with Tiff in a personal level, as far as like, any type of advances or any get down with them. When she encourages that, he doesn't push up on her extra hard. He's a very, very laid back dude, probably because he's always high. Anyway, Tiff meets up at Dante's house, and Dante is a supplier for her and Rob. He's one of the suppliers. And essentially, when she walks into the room, there's another person in the room, a guy by the name of Cairo. And Cairo is actually showing some of his product to Dante. And Tiff is worried that Cairo could be edging in on them as a supplier. I apologize. Dante is the seller. Tiff and Rob are suppliers to Dante. So she's coming in as a supplier, and then she sees this other supplier in the room. And Dante's telling her, like, yo, this guy makes really, really good. He grows his own stuff. And it's really smooth. You don't choke when you smoke. Like, it's amazing. You should try it. And Tiff is like, I don't want to try somebody else's product. He's like, just try it. She tries it, incredibly smooth. You don't choke. A lot of what we see people happen when they smoke and when they're sharing smoke, he throws a really organic, smooth product. And so Tiff is worried that, like, hey, we could be put out of business. Like, this guy is growing his own product. It's better than what we have. And like, is this going to be an issue for us? And Cairo's like, I ain't really worried about that. So she's like, look, I got to take some of this home to Rob. So she's like, look, are you going to go with him as a supplier to Dante? And Dante's like, nah, we still good. As long as you still fine. We still good. You ain't got no problems. But I probably will take a little bit from this dude as well. So she takes some home to Rob. Rob smokes it and is like, yo, this is incredible. Like, we could be put out of business by this guy. Who is he? And Tiff was like, I don't know. When I was there talking to him, he was like, hey, I would love to have a further conversation with you. I'm not trying to put you out of business, but I think y'all could do better than what y'all doing right now, especially if you start growing your own stuff. Rob doesn't really want to do that because they're not really in the growing business. They're just more so in the supply business. And he also is reluctant to do that because, as we remember from the last episode, he made a deal with Douda that was better than what he used to have. He and Tiff used to only get, I think, like 10% once of their sales or whatever of their product. And Douda came to him with 15%. So he was like, this is a better deal. But Tiff, much like Keisha and everybody else in the community, knows that Douda is bad trouble. He's not somebody to be around. She really doesn't want to be up underneath him. It's not good being associated with this man. And so she's encouraging Rob to go to this meetup with Cairo to just see what he has to say. Like, we're not going to agree to anything. We're just going to go hear him out. They go to hear out Rob, and essentially Rob tells them, like, hey, I'm not trying to put y'all out of business. I already am rich. I already have money, but I do grow an amazing product, and I really want people just to smoke better. Like, his thing is, like, he's really into this organic product that he sells, and he's like, look, he's like, I grow organic weed. I really think that this is the way forward. I want our people to smoke better. I want people to have better issues with their lungs and not have all these issues from smoking that you get with bad product, with crappy product that's cut down, all kinds of stuff. So he essentially says, I would love for y'all to think more along those terms as you're going further in your encounters with, like, who you get your supply from. He said, better yet, why don't y'all start making your own supply and cut out the middleman? So they're like listening to him. He's basically laying out about how, like, growers are popping up everywhere and it's just a matter of time. He's like, y'all could grow your own stuff. And they're like, yeah, but we don't really have this space. He's like, well, do you have your own home? And they're like, yeah, we have our own home. And he's like, well, do y'all live in a mansion? And they're like, no. He's like, well, you don't have to live in a mansion, but you have to have like a grow space. But can you afford to rent a place? You could grow there. And he's like, I'll show y'all how to do everything. This man is super passionate about growing. Do you understand what I'm saying? And like making superior product. He really just wants people to have a better quality of product. And so he's like, I can show y'all everything. And they're like, well, the investment for this might be really high. He's like, look, do y'all have anybody y'all can get a loan from? That would really help you. But if you can invest in yourself, you will reap the rewards of a better product, better customer base, and you will also not have to deal with this dangerous element. So Tiff and Rob basically are like, okay, this sounds really good to us. We could get rid of a lot of the drama with Douda. We can get our own thing going, and we can also make all of the money back because we can reap the full amount of our reward versus this 15%. And so they're starting to talk about who they could possibly get money from. Obviously, they can't go to a legitimate bank. And Rob mentions that he thinks there's someone that he can, because what we forgot about with Rob is that he actually comes from a little bit of money, and he grew up like going to the best schools and stuff like that. He isn't like a traditional guy from like the South Side where they're all from. He is like from a little bit of the affluent part. And so he has to talk to, his family members to see who he can deal with. He says he thinks he can get it from his mom, but he's not sure he wants to go to her. Tiff says go to her. So guess who pops onto the scene? None other than the illustrious Lynn Whitfield. She is playing Rob's mom, Alicia. Has a beautiful home. Rob comes to her and basically is laying down that he wants to borrow $50,000 from her to get started with this business. I was shocked that he was so candid with her. But we realize as he's conversing with his mother about getting this $50,000 loan for them to expand their weed empire, that she and him don't have a great relationship. Like you can tell they're not close. And he also addresses the fact that they're not close. I feel like it's more him than her in terms of why they're not close. And there clearly is a story there about whether or not she's been a good parent to him. But essentially, he's like, look, I can use this $50,000 and I'll give you your money back plus interest with return. And she's like, look, I don't care about you giving me my money back. I want something else. And that's when we realized like the reason he was so able to talk to his mother about the situation regarding the whole business is because she's been around that her whole life. So what we basically find out is that she says she's not only willing to give him 50, she will give him 100 to help invest in his business and for him and Tiff to expand to do their own thing. But she wants him to find and kill the person that killed his uncle, which was Q. And as we know, Q was killed by Douda. But Rob does not know that, and neither does his mother. So nobody knows that Douda was the one that killed his partner Q. And so she's like, look, I will give you the money, but I want this in return. I want you to find that person and take them out. And she's like, look, you owe this to us. You owe this to your family. Like this, your uncle is the reason you even had a good life growing up because his money allowed for you to go to private school, to live on the north side, to not even have to live in a poverty-stricken situation because I didn't have it like that. So Rob is now thinking about it and basically we're going to see if he's going to take the charge and the loan, which looks like it's just going to be a payment, if he's able to find who killed his uncle and take them out. So we land back on Shad, and it's just been so hard to see him struggling. I love that the Shy is touching on how hard it can be for people who get released from jail to find their way, especially being able to like reacclimate themselves back to society after they get out and find employment. Sometimes we get told that there's all these programs and capabilities and these abilities for them to be able to go into it, but we don't really understand how hard it can be when you have a felony on your record to, get back in there. And a lot of people don't even have the support system that Shad sort of has. And he doesn't completely have a support system. We haven't been introduced to any family that he has. His family really are his friends and his new girlfriend. And so they've been the ones that have been the most supportive of him, but he still is struggling to find, work. And so we sort of see him outside of their house. It's freezing cold. It's all the snow on the ground. He has his heavy winter coat with some tables outside and he's hanging up some jerseys on their fence. His girlfriend comes out and is like, what are you doing? And he's like, hey, I'm out here trying to sell back these throwback jerseys. I realized that I really want to start like a vintage throwback store and I can't just sit around waiting for that to happen. I don't have the money to get started, so I'm starting where I'm at. And the girlfriend is livid. She can't believe they're outside. She's like, this is embarrassing. Like, just get inside. Like, we'll talk about a business plan. We can talk about resources. I can even loan you some money. He's like, I don't want to do it like that. I really want to do this as a grown man on my own. I know that I can do this and I need to know that I can help my own self. So he's like, look, I got to start where I am. Let me just start and work on this part here. Somebody passes by. They actually look at the table of stuff that he has. They see a T-Mobile two-way. Y'all remember the T-Mobile two-way? Anyway, he is he looks at it and he's like, hey, this is a really good piece. Like I could let it go for like $100. And the guy is like, it's 2023. Who on a two-way? Like I give you $20. And he's like, nah, I can't let it go for that. And the dude walks away. And it's like, you are kind of seeing like, okay, does he understand how the vintage business might work? And how would this work if you're turning down stuff? But it's interesting to see that we know what he wants to do and he has figured out what it is. He's just trying to figure out how to get to it. And it's also interesting to see how he is respectfully discussing with his girlfriend how he wants to navigate this space and about letting him do it and her not butting in. And I love the way that she's loving on him to say, okay, let me give this man space and time. If this is what he said he wants to do, let me help him find his way. I don't know how long that's going to last as these bills need to get paid and she's the only one paying them. But what we do know is he's not lazy. And so I'm hoping that there is some way in the season where we'll get to see him possibly live out the dream of opening this store because he just knows so many people that probably could help. I just hope he doesn't have to go to Douda. Speaking of going to Douda, later on in the episode, Shad goes to Smokey's to get something to eat. And I am always wondering how somebody with a job is always eating out. Well, rather, without a job is always eating out. But I think Emmett must be giving him free food. Anyway, he goes to Smokey's to eat. And when he's at Smokey's, he sees Bakari. As we know, Bakari is now working for Douda. And Bakari was once homeless and living with Jake and Trig in that house along with Shad. And it was Shad who kind of advocated for him a lot when he made mistakes for them to give him a chance because he once was who Bakari was. So now the shoes like flipped, but Shad is fine with that because Shad had to do jail time as a result of living like how Bakari was living. And he's telling him like it's not a good idea that you're out here with Douda. Bakari is trying to throw him work and say, hey, look, I don't want to see you down and out. You advocated for me. I would love to throw you some work. And he's like, I don't want that type of work. I did years in jail and you about to go to jail if you keep messing with this man. And he's like, look, I can't be homeless. And whatever I give you, like it could be low key. And he's like, there's nothing low key about this situation. You are going to end up dead in jail, young brother. You need to get out now. So we are back with our girl Maisha, and I just have to say, I personally love seeing Maisha's glow up. We know Maisha came from a really struggled background where she was basically like the adult in her household. At a very very young age, we got introduced to the kids in the shy at like middle school. So it's just been so dope to see her trajectory and being very focused on getting out of her situation, especially when you don't necessarily have the odds counted in your favor and just making things happen for herself. It definitely hasn't been luck. So it's just so dope to see her glow up. So as we know, Maisha is rapping now. She's doing her thing, her Megan Thee Stallion, her Nicki Minaj, her Lotto. And so she's in the rap game. She had a really, really cool single last season and it really blew up for her and she's getting more and more attention. She's actually shopping out with Gemma and Gemma is acting as her manager and she's been doing that since last season as well. And so Maisha is talking to Gemma about wanting to expand and release new music because she really only had like I think one or two songs and they weren't long in terms of length. So she's like, look, we got to start thinking about new music. And Gemma is telling her she's got to start putting out stuff so that she keeps herself hot while she's like blowing up. And so Maisha's agreeing with her, but she's not sure about what to write. And Gemma and her are having this conversation as they're looking through clothes in the store because Maisha's saying, look, I don't want to be broke. I got to start, booking more shows or doing more things. As they're talking, there's an artist that comes in the store by the name of Sasha Go Hard. And Sasha sees Maisha, walks up to her, is like, hey girl, like I love your stuff. I think you're really dope. I'm watching you online. I see the content. I see, how you're moving the people. I really like you. And she's like, saying thank you. It's essential to like, her meeting, she's a fan, but she's also a fellow rapper now. And she's meeting this girl and the girl's just giving her a lot of praise. So the girl explains that her opening act went to jail and she needs somebody to fill in for them. And she asked Maisha when she mind opening. And at that point, Maisha activates, but then Gemma activates. And Gemma's like, hey, look, I'm the manager. So like, let me talk with her. And Gemma kind of jumps in over Maisha as she's sort of saying like, oh yeah, no problem. And she does her manager thing like, hey, have my people call your people. Here's my phone number. We'll talk, we'll converse, we'll get the logistics worked out. And so we're excited to see like Maisha starting to get more opportunities. And a lot of the episode focused on Maisha was really focused on her and Gemma's relationship as the talent and as the manager. And we watched Gemma hustle to make sure like Maisha has a writer. For people who don't know what a writer is, it's basically like small requirements like an artist may have or artists may have when they're working or about to do a show or even like a talk show or anything that they may have in their dressing room. So, or they would need for the performance. And then that's ultimately up to people that are asking them or throwing the event to like provide for them. So sometimes a writer can include food. Sometimes it can include special equipment for you to perform with. It can include, refreshments, bed, or any type of small amenities for you and your staff as you're, going to be providing this performance or you're going to be doing whatever you're going to be doing for whoever's throwing the event or venue or, situation. So Gemma's working those details out with them, what Maisha will get paid, that kind of thing. And we see her sort of doing her hustle during the episode. They kind of flash on her quickly negotiating some things for Maisha. And, all the way down to like Maisha wanting chips and a specific type of soda. And we sort of see that situation work out in the end. We also see Maisha and Gemma have a little bit of a tough conversation about the fact that Gemma is the manager, Maisha is the talent. And we notice, at least for me, I noticed that they're probably going to have some more bumps in the road, and it could mean something before the end of this season where maybe Gemma doesn't end up being Maisha's manager. I don't know, but I just feel like I think we saw opening acts of what Maisha's expectations are for her, because you have to have that for the person that's working for you. Maisha is ultimately the boss, even if Gemma is managing her. And we also can see like where Gemma from the business side of things knows what she's talking about and is trying to get this girl up into the right place. Because even for the performance, the artist Sasha Gohart is like, hey, just do any new songs you have plus what you have, and I'll give you like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And like Maisha doesn't have 15 minutes worth of material. And Gemma reminds her, like, girl, you don't have 15 minutes worth of songs, so what you gonna do? So she's like, let's cut that down. You perform what you have and write a new song. And she's like, Maisha would have just been happy with taking the 15 minutes because her fave came and asked her to like perform for her. And she's like, that's why I'm here, to make sure that you don't make these kind of mistakes. So we got to see what's going to happen with them. But it was really nice to see Maisha in her element and doing her thing. And she actually kills her performance. And guess who is waiting in Maisha's dressing room after she kills her performance? None other than Mr. Kevin. Honey, this man is smitten right now. It's very cute that they're revisiting this like little love story with them from season 1, because just having her and Kevin go through, like him going through relationship ups and downs. And we never really got a Kev Maisha moment. It really didn't even start off as a love story. It started off with Maisha crushing on him not really sure, like him just coming into the phase of when you're in middle school and you start really liking girls more than hanging out with your friends because you're not super young anymore, and not knowing how to navigate that space. And there was just so many good conversations around like Black beauty and attractiveness and what you're into, and do you care more about what your friends think about than how you care about the person. So we've seen a lot of this between the two of them kind of go up and down, and we've seen them go through different relationships, and Maisha had this long-standing relationship with Papa and that whole situation. So it's really cute that they're revisiting this, but Kevin basically is sitting in there and he's saying how he thought it was so dope. She killed her performance. He came to support her. I think he's the only friend besides Gemma, who obviously is her manager, that's there to support her. And he's just like, you did your thing. I'm really proud of you. And, I'm trying to figure out what this is. And so he's like, but either way, I'm trying to figure us out. And she's like, us, like, I don't know, what I want to do. She's like, so what are you trying to be in a relationship? And he's like, she's like, I don't know if I'm ready. He's like, we don't got to call it nothing. Like Kevin is hype right now. He's like, whatever you want to do, I'm on. He just wants to be in the space. And I'm hoping that this is truly authentic and it's not like a groupie situation, but I don't think that it is, because he's known her for so long. And I think it's just, he's trying to figure out his space. He's doing really well in his own life. So it's not like he's just trying to sit up under Maisha and like get money from her and then whatever. It's like they're both in their respective places right now where they're finding success as very young people early. And I think he's just like connecting with her more around that. And I think he's always had a smittenness with her. Like he's always kind of dug her. He dug her even after the whole crush thing, because Maisha was smart. She was on point. She knew what she wanted to do. And now the fulfillment of that dream is happening for her because she's always grinding towards what she wants. So I think it's really cute. I'm excited to see where this story will go. I really think we deserved a Kevin and Maisha love story. So I'm hoping he don't mess this up, because I think he's the only one that could actually mess this up. Now, to me, this was really the biggest, I think, like story of the episode. Everybody's individual stuff was cool. We got to see, Jamal reconnect with Lene. Lene accepts him back. We kind of got to see Emmett and Keisha fulfill a dream, because ultimately they ended up going ahead with trying to purchase this house. We got to see we got to see Maisha perform and have an amazing performance, and her and Kevin maybe rekindling something. We got to see Trig find his way with the mental health. But when I tell you this storyline here right now, this was the best storyline to me of the episode. Even outside of seeing Lynn Whitfield slay and play Rob's mama and hunt, put him on the hunt to kill whoever killed his uncle. Papa going at it with his daddy at the dinner table, honey. this was really the tea of the episode. It was an interesting episode with Papa and his storyline. So we kind of following Papa being at dinner with his father and his mother. Really, I feel like this is the first time we've seen Papa's mama. I don't know. Drop down in the comments if y'all watched The Shy and you really have seen her before. I don't think I've ever seen that lady. So it was interesting to see who his mother was. But basically, Papa is at the dinner table with his father, his mother, and Bakari. As we know, Bakari now lives with them. He works for Douda, but Bakari, before working for Douda and getting this job, he was homeless, and Papa's family took him in and accepted him. And so they're having this conversation. The father is praying over the meal, and Papa starts challenging his dad about, I guess, some of his things that he's been doing on the side. Not really so much the side, but at some point in the season before this, in the season before this season, Papa's father, who's a pastor, because Papa's a PK kid, he took some money from Douda to like help out the church or whatever. But we're finding that, Douda only did that to try to like influence stuff, and it kind of went bad, and then will do that, start trying to use the church to launder money and things like that. And you have these people that are in the community that are bad elements, but they give back to the community, Nino Brown style, handing out turkeys, but then you also selling drugs in the same capacity. And that's sort of how Douda operates, to keep people in line and keep people in fairness. So Papa's not feeling that, and he's saying like, you're praying over this food and you're praying over the community and things like that as we're talking at this table, but you're a hypocrite. And so they kind of start going at it, and it is messy. But I also love that Papa was challenging his father in terms of the belief. The mother comes back and says that you don't challenge your parents. Ma'am, respectfully, no. I think it is important, that you do speak up when you see that kind of wrong and you have your parents doing that. And Papa, if, throws out, and the children, so leave them line, which is really, really funny to me, because he hit them with the Bible and then they ain't really have so much to say. But that whole back and forth is going on. Interestingly enough, one of the best moments and the sweetest moments happens during that exchange, which is that the father does take in what Papa says, and he starts to respect what his son is saying to him about the situation. And he says that he has to respect it because he has sons that he's trying to influence. Now, Papa's the only child, y'all. So when he says sons, he was also talking about Bakari. And you could tell Bakari's head just sort of lights up as he says that. And the mother reiterates what the father says, saying that, yeah, we're raising sons with an S. And you just know in that moment, these people have really been a blessing to this young man. They're not treating him like somebody that's just staying in their home, that's their friends, that's their son's friend. They see him as one of their own. And that is huge for a young person that's kind of been thrown out by their own family, by the system, all that kind of stuff. You could just see that there's an emotional tie that they have with this young man, and they see him as their own child, especially because Bakari's older. He's not some young kid that they took in at, 10 or 9 or something like that, and he was living with them the whole time and they helped raise him. He's a year or two from graduating high school with their son, but they're talking to him like, you are our family, and they mention that he is their family. And so you just see Bakari's face sort of take on this internal like hug that is just so beautiful. But it also causes a little bit of trouble for him because, he works for Douda. And, as we see later on in the episode, that's going to be a challenge. Also in this episode, we're starting to see the formulation of a story that's giving early light to, if you watch RHOA, and it's giving Jalen and Fallon. It's giving early uncomfortableness. So as I told you on the last episode, Papa and his new teammate at Smokies is a young lady that she's like 19. Papa is 17. And it's giving early R. Kelly vibes. I'm not feeling this storyline with them. And essentially what's happening is Papa is like connecting with this woman or whatever. He's at work. He's about to go home. He's going to catch the bus, and she offers to give him a ride. And they get into the car, and she tells him to pick something on the station, and he actually picks Anita Baker Body and Soul, which for a 17-year-old in 2023 is like really unheard of. If you're not tuned into kids are very diverse nowadays, but she's shocked to see somebody this young pick that compared to what she maybe thought he might have threw on something, some trap music or something like that. And she, sees that Papa is an old soul, which we already knew. But, to me, this storyline is so creepy. Like, I want to root for the idea that Papa is moving on in his relationships and finding somebody and finding a connection. I really hate that they're making it this 19-year-old girl that clearly is putting herself in like a R. Kelly vibe situation. Like, girl, he's in high school and you're not. That's already the cutoff situation right there. He is very much little brother mode. And the fact that she keeps saying, like, when will you turn 18? It's so creepy to me. I don't know where the storyline is going. I'm not interested in it. I really feel like it's so weird because I think he said he turns 18 in 6 months. And to me, when boundaries like this are normally crossed, people end up doing things before that time frame. And I'm just like, why are they having this girl act like she can't meet any other person her age and older? She's like in college. So it's like you really are waiting for this high schooler to turn 18. It's real creepy. And I don't know where they're going with this, but they're going to keep forcing this storyline of Papa meeting this 19-year-old girl he working with and them connecting. I don't like it at all. At all. Uh, and then lastly, we kind of close out the episode where Papa's dad has taken into account what his son is saying. And so he's starting to feel some sort of way about like the donation he previously took from Douda, and he doesn't think that he wants to deal with him anymore. He also doesn't like that he's in this biblical space where he's supposed to be a safe haven for people in the community, and he's dealing with this person that's kind of destroying the community through like his works and his actions. And so ironically, Douda, aka Otis, comes to the church, and Stanley, who was Papa's father and the pastor at the church, he comes to bring him a gift, and the gift is a bag of money. But Stanley is smart enough to realize that anything coming from Douda is not good, and he's also heeding the words of his son, who's telling him, "Hey, this behavior is hypocritical to who you're saying you want us to be in the eyes of God." So he turns down the bag, and Douda's goons sort of step up. And right now it's just Douda and two of his goons. Bakari, who actually lives with them and had traveled with them, is outside. He does not walk in with them. And he basically is staying outside looking through the church doors. And Douda proceeds to tell him, like, are you crazy? You better take this money. Like, I offered this money to you. You don't disrespect me. And he's saying, I can't be involved in what you're doing in the community. You're destroying it. I won't be party to that, and I won't be afraid to speak up. And so the goons take the money back. Douda tells him, do you really want to start this type of situation? And you just know that there's trouble to follow this situation. And it's just so sad to see that, oftentimes when people in the community do step up and try to fight back, it ultimately could lead to their demise. So we see Douda walk out upset that Stanley didn't take the money. And when he gets outside, he gets upset with Bakari because he's like, why didn't you walk in with us? And Bakari's like, because I live with him. And he's like, I don't care. You work for me. And you can just already see, again, so much of Douda is entering these different places and spaces. And these people have like such a thin line between either crossing over and getting back into real serious trouble or conflicting their own personal beliefs and trying to stay true to the better sides of who they are and maybe getting away from him. And I clearly can tell, and I think we all can tell, that's going to be a large part of the season. So that was episode 2. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Let me know what y'all thought about the episode. Let me know what y'all thought about the review, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.